Well, here's the deal. When you have a massive goal, something that's big, you must first make it something that not reaching it is unacceptable. Me not being who God made me to be, me not living my dream was unacceptable for me. Now, when you get faced with a challenge like living in your car for 3 years, what happened was I had a dream that was so big, my dreams were bigger than all my problems. You know what I'm saying? See, if your dreams aren't really big enough and your problems are bigger than your dreams, then your problems will be bigger than your dreams. But if your dreams are so big, I had no problem that I was not willing to endure to get to my dream. Now, the key, you said it though, was step by step. Remember this saying, inch by inch, anything's a cinch. Inch by inch. See, so you gotta set incremental goals along the way. On your way to, let's say you wanna be a millionaire, but let's say you only make $5,000 a year right now, but you want to be a millionaire. Then you have got to take whatever you did to make $5,000 and duplicate it so you can make 10. But when you make 10, that should be a minor celebration. Then when you make 20, that should be another minor celebration. Don't stay frustrated because you haven't reached the million, because it takes a long time to make $1 million. But let's just say you're making $250,000. There's another celebration you should have. So you have to enjoy the journey because the journey is not going to change. If you wait until you reach your goal to celebrate, you're gonna be, it's mentally debilitating. So you have to have monumental steps along the way and just make inch by inch anything's a cinch. Set very doable goals as you're trying to reach the impossible thing. Me being a TV star from where I was an impossible thing, and everybody told me that. Every single body I knew told me that's impossible. A television star. You go work with your father and your brothers for construction. So when I was in high school, I worked construction with my father. I hated it. I'm digging holes and I'm carrying buckets of tar. I don't do this. It's good money right here. I kept looking on TV, man. You know, first time I saw a black person on TV in the United States. When he came on TV, all the black people went inside to watch this black man on TV because no black man had ever been on TV in America and spoke, ever.
Can the human equivalent of class and perseverance really be learned the way you can learn to drive a car or play a musical instrument? To a great extent, I think perseverance can be learned, and there are some very powerful techniques that can help you learn it. By far the most important tool you can use in developing perseverance is a personal list of challenging, realistic, well-defined, and highly rewarding goals. Goals are major to a genuinely success-oriented person. Without them, you're just playing around. The difference between a goal-directed individual and someone without goals is like the difference between a Wimbledon champion and a kid batting a tennis ball around on a court with no net, no opponent to bring out the best in him, and no way of keeping score. Despite everything that's been written about the importance of goal setting, very few people actually put it into practice. It's always amazed me the way the average guy puts more thought and effort into planning his 2-week vacation than he devotes to planning his life. What's he taking a vacation from? He hasn't really decided what he's trying to do in life, but for 2 weeks out of the year, he just decides he wants to do something else. And this is what he plans very carefully. Challenge creates strong character, and goals represent challenge in its most positive form. Leaders have their personal goals clearly in focus, as well as the goals of the organization. In fact, one of the principal responsibilities of leadership is defining goals for the vast majority of people who aren't able to do it for themselves. And I also want to point out some traps of goal-directed behavior that aren't usually talked about, but that certainly ought to be. When I was a kid, I used to dream what it would be like to buy a ticket on a railroad train and just go someplace. I really didn't think about where I'd be going or how long it would take to get there. I just loved the idea of getting on the train and just letting it take me someplace. I guess there's still something appealing about that idea, but it's not really the way you want to live your life as a mature human being. When you grow up, you buy a ticket on a train or a plane because you want to go someplace, and you know exactly where you're going. You may have to change planes in a different city, your flight may be canceled, and you may have to switch to another flight. You may not feel like talking to the person seated next to you, but you will persist. You know where you're headed, and you're quite determined to get there. That's goal-directed behavior in its simplest form.
I was in the toughest times, and I was able to pull myself through. How did I do it? What were some of the elements that made the biggest difference in your life when you did those turnarounds, when you made it through whatever was your toughest time? For me, those toughest times in the very beginning were when I was just a kid and my mom and dad separated, and my mom thought I was on my dad's side, so she came. She kicked him out already. He moved back east, and I was literally sleeping in my car trying to figure out how to survive. And, homeless, trying to figure out what to do. I had to figure out, what am I going to do to change myself? Because first I was just depressed and overwhelmed, and I felt like there's nothing I could do. I had a similar experience in a different way at a totally different stage of life. In my early 30s, when suddenly I was diagnosed of having a tumor in my brain. And all of a sudden, your whole life becomes total uncertainty. And what do you do to turn things around? Well, at the most fundamental level, I did 5 things. And these are the 5 that I invite you to consider and look at in your life to either take yourself to the next level, be able to thrive during these difficult times, or turn yourself around so you can begin to thrive. The first thing I believe you got to do to turn yourself around is really take control of your mind, or specifically, you got to feed and strengthen the mind. The mind is an interesting place, isn't it? I mean, fear can take us over. Uncertainty kind of unleashes all these thoughts that make us start to believe very often that things will always be bad, that we'll never be able to turn it around, or that we don't have the capability. It's just the nature of those inner voices that everybody feels at times. Now, maybe you're not feeling it right now, but I'm sure there are times that you have. So to take control of your focus, what do you do? Well, then I was told all of a sudden I had a tumor, or way back when I'm on my own trying to figure out what to do, I realized that somehow to take control of my mind, I had to feed it. And if I didn't feed my mind, I'd be living on the weeds that came around me. I mean, today, if all you do is, pick up your phone, you've got all kinds of messages that are going to get your full attention, or flip on Google and check out the news, or watch CNN, or whatever it is you do, it's constantly coming at us. One of my first teachers, Jim Rohn, taught me something years ago. He said, Tony, every day you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. He said, I'll give you a good lesson. He said, think about this. if your worst enemy in the whole world came and dropped some sugar in your coffee? He said, what would happen to you? And I was just a 17-year-old kid just getting started. And I said, what do you mean? I'd have sweet sugar. He said, that's right. He said, what if your best friend, with the best intention in the world, dropped one drop of strychnine in your coffee? I said, I'd be dead. But that's right. So remember, life is both sugar and strychnine, and you better stand guard at your coffee. Stand guard at the door of your mind, because things feed in there and you start to accept them. They start to become beliefs. You start to make up meanings that take over your life. My fastest way of combating that when I was first brand new, just trying to figure out what to do with my life, was to read. And I was poor. I was literally sleeping in my car. So I'm ancient enough to remember when there wasn't an internet, and when I would go to the library. And I would go to that library, and my whole goal was feed the mind. Feed the mind for at least an hour minimum a day, and sometimes more than that.